Christy here from Crafty Christy's Creations. Today we are going to take a look at matless cutting of cardstock with the Cameo 4. So this is called Pop-Up Cut. So let's jump over to Silhouette Studio and dive in.
Here I am in Silhouette Studio, and we're going to test this feature using one of the thinnest layers of my layered B card. All I have to do is come over to my page setup. I'm using my Cameo 4. Feed type is auto. I'm going to change the cutting mat to none. And you see I have my cut border showing. And when you're not using a mat, you do lose some area there of where you can cut. That cut border came up. That way your page doesn't fall out of the rollers. And I'm going to leave that right there. And then we can come over to the send panel. I like to use my cardstock heavy weight material. And when you have the auto blade in there, it's going to throw in this auto pop out cut. I like to use a blade depth of 4, force of 33, speed of 4 with 1 pass. So now let's go ahead and load in our material so we can send this to cut.
I've got my sheet of cardstock here, and in order to place this in the mat, we need to adjust the rollers. The roller on the right side always needs to be on the edge of your material. So we're going to flip this down to release those rollers. And this roller on the side here has a lock button. So you have to press that button to be able to bring in that lock. And I like to just set my cardstock here so that I can see where my roller needs to go. And there's some notches right here, and we're just going to let it clip right into those notches, and that will put it right on the edge of my cardstock. These two middle rollers, you can spread them out however you want. So I'm going to do mine just like that. When you're happy with your roller setup, you can go ahead and lock that back into place. So this piece pointing up means your rollers are locked. Pointing down means that it's unlocked. So we're going to lock that roller bar down. And now we can go ahead and feed in our material. Now we just need to go back to Silhouette and hit send.
Okay, we have our material loaded in, and you can see that the Cameo machine is ready. So now I'm just going to hit the send button and let this send to cut.
So what it's doing with this pop-up feature is the blade lifts up in certain spots to give you what they call a perforation cut. So it's technically not completely cut all the way through. And the Cameo 4 and newer machines have the special plate built in underneath to allow this to happen, so that it's going to cut but not really cut all the way through and just do that perforation cut. So you'll see when we go to pull this out that there's actually a little spot where it's still connected to the rest of the material. But there is a little bit of jumping that's happening right now. So I'll be curious to see how this turns out. And that jumping is probably due to the force that we're using. It's definitely not staying flat in there. So I'm curious if I can just help that stay a little more flat. So now you can hear the little parts are trying to pop a little bit because it is jumping up and down a little bit when it goes to lift up to do that perforation spot. So it's not holding the same constant pressure on that cardstock, so it's moving a little bit. Okay, let's go ahead and unload. So here's what it looks like. You can see in the corners here, that's that perforation spot where it's not completely cutting, so it's just holding on in that corner. And these just pop right off. It's a little messy. And you know, I probably wouldn't use this setting for something intricate like that, even though I turned down the speed slower than what I normally use. It's just not, like the edges here are really torn up. I mean, it's a neat feature if you're wanting to cut like big shapes, but something intricate like this is not ideal.
Okay, let's go to design. We'll get rid of that. I'm gonna pull in some simple flexi shapes here and see if we can get a better cut. And I'm just gonna, let's try a star. Try one of these. Let's try a heart. An airplane. And before you cut these shapes, they're not actually shapes yet. You have to convert them to path. So now those are shapes. Let's go over to the send panel. Okay, I'm going to turn my force down to 25. I'm going to use Recollections cardstock this time instead and see if that makes a difference. So now we can load in the material and send this.
Let's try again with some simple shapes and see how this works out. I'm just gonna load this in. And then we can head over to Silhouette and send some shapes to cut. So I'm using the speed of 2 here to give this some extra time. And we'll see if that makes a difference. I'm also using that yellow sheet was Astro Brights, and this is Recollection, so maybe the brand has something to do with it too. So I'm able to turn the force down a little bit more, and this seems like it's working better. Looks like there's less jumping going on here, so I'm hopeful that this is going to turn out to cut better. Okay, let's take a look. So right away I've got some scrunching at the bottom here, at the top here. This looks pretty good, and my airplane looks pretty good. So let's see if we can't punch these out. And that spot right there. There we go. The bottom here is going to be a little difficult because it was scrunched in there, but not terrible. And that looks pretty good. Let's see about our little flower shape. So far that looks the best. Now let's see about our airplane. Not bad. So here's what they look like. I would say this turned out the best. There's some scrunching at the paper here, up here, and then in this corner where it was stuck. And this is what it looks like here. There's still some spots. So the difference is, this is Recollection 65 pound. The other one was Astro Brights, which is also 65 pound, but it feels a little bit thicker. So I had the force up to 33 for the Astro Brights and down to 25 for the Recollections, but using the same blade depth. The speed was at 2 for every cut. Overall, I would say that the pop-out cut might work good for certain papers and with not super intricate designs. Me personally, I'm gonna stick with cutting my cardstock on a mat so I don't have to worry about adjusting my settings depending on what kind of cardstock I'm using. So there's my review of the matless cutting of cardstock using the pop-up cut feature with the Cameo 4.